One of the most important things when building AI agents is to be able to access big files and big databases to get you the information that you want. So today we're going to learn how to create our own RAG AI agent that's able to access our databases using Supabase as well. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So before we get started, my name is Cal from dainami AI, and my goal is to share practical and useful AI automation use cases and workflows that we can build today to get ahead in this AI race. So just to run through what we are going to build today, I've created two different workflows on n8n. The first one is for our RAG AI agent, where we're able to talk to it through Telegram. Following that, the second workflow that we have created is this specific workflow that we have created that allows us to have new files that we have created in our Google Drive to be uploaded directly into our database on Supabase. So before we move any further, I'm going to go through with you how this workflow exactly works, and then I'm going to run through with you step by step on how we can build this workflow together. Alright, and first I'm going to open up my Telegram, and you can see from here, I've created a Telegram bot for our specific RAG AI agent. And we're going to start by talking to it, and we're going to ask it questions in relation to our meeting minutes. As you can see from here, this specific RAG agent example is used to access meeting minutes for our meetings. So I've created a specific dummy data over here, and I'm going to open this up, and we're going to see if the information that we can get is exactly the same later on. So coming back to the RAG AI agent and opening up our Telegram, I want to start by asking it a question. Hello, when was the last meeting held? And let's press enter. And let's test the workflow and see what happens. Alright, you can see it's running through the workflow, and it's using the Qwen model, which is very powerful and is able to access our Supabase vector store and get the information for us. And you see over here, the last meeting was held on February 11, 2025. So if you go back to our meeting minutes, you can see this is the meeting minute notes that is held on February 11, 2025. So that is pretty cool. And we can ask it further questions as well, such as what is the follow-up that we need to do for this specific meeting. Let's test the workflow again and see what happens. Okay, and let's check out Telegram again. And it has told us the specific follow-up for the specific meeting. You see over here, it's telling us that we want to have a technical review meeting with Alex Johnson and John Doe, as well as a follow-up meeting with due by February 22, 2025. So let's check out the meeting minutes to see if it's accurate. And that's exactly what's over here. Pretty cool. So you can see how this specific RAG agent is able to access our information. And although you can see the previous demo was shown in this specific Google Doc, what we actually did in this specific workflow is that we uploaded this information from Google Docs into our Supabase workflow over here. So if I open up the table editor, you can see the documents over here has all the information about the project meeting notes. So you can open this up, and you can see this is the project meeting notes that we have taken from the Google Drive previously. This allows us to create a very extensive database that allows our AI agent to gain access and information to all the documents that we need, perhaps for a meeting or even for other purposes as well. So this is super important as a foundation for all the AI agents that we are going to build. And so we're just going to run through this whole exact workflow today, how you can build everything step by step so that you can build your own RAG AI agent as well. Now, before we continue the video, do download all the resources linked in the description below to follow along more effectively. Alright, and so now let's come into our workflow and see how we can get started. Okay, we're going to start off with the very first workflow over here. So we're able to actually talk to the RAG AI agent previously on Telegram, and we get it to reply to us on Telegram as well. So the first part of the automation that we need to build is to connect Telegram into our AI agent on n8n. Afterwards, we're going to have to connect our chat model. And in this specific tutorial, we're going to use open source models such as Qwen and Deepseek so that you can access all these models at a cheaper price and make them work for you. Following that, we're also going to create a memory section for our model. And this time, we're going to use Postgres chat memory instead of a window buffer memory. And this is because if you want the model to be production ready, we don't really want a simple temporary hosted window buffer memory. But instead, we're going to create a proper memory database that the RAG AI agent can actually use to gain access to all the previous chat history and actually function properly without overloading. Following that, the most important part of it is to create the tool that allows us to retrieve the document from our vector database. And so we're going to create this specific section which allows the AI agent to access the Supabase database and use that to provide the information necessary back to us. And beyond that, after we are done with this specific workflow, we're going to go into the second workflow, which is to automatically update the database with new information from Google Drive. And so in this example, as we're using it for meeting minutes, we're going to create a Google Drive module over here, and then we're going to send it all the way into our Supabase database so that it's updated every single time we create a new specific meeting minutes, or even when we update our previous documents as well. And of course, in the process of it, we're going to learn how to create a Supabase database as well over here, how we can actually use that to create any database for your own specific use cases. All right, so now let's come back to the first part. I'm going to start off with the Telegram trigger. So to create this specific part of the workflow, you do have to firstly create your own specific Telegram bot. And so to create a Telegram bot, you just have to use bot file over here and type /new bot, and you'll be able to create your own Telegram bot. From there, all you got to do is to get your API keys, and then you just have to connect it through your credentials over here for your specific Telegram bot itself. So the first specific node you want to create is the Telegram trigger. So we're going to search for update message, and we're going to create a trigger, connect your credentials. And once you have your credentials connected, all of this should be set specifically trigger on message, and that's all you got to do. Once that is done, we're going to create an AI agent node. Alright, so how you can do this is to click the plus button over here and search for AI agent, and you just have to add that in, and then you will have an AI agent node itself. Alright, from this AI agent node, once that is done, we're going to create a final node before we go into the models, the memory, and the tools, which is another Telegram node. We're going to search for a send message node, and we're going to add it to our AI agent. This is so that the AI agent is able to reply to us on Telegram after conversing with us. Over here, we're going to open this. What you want to do is to pull over the output from the Rec AI agent. So you just have to drag this over, and you get something like JSON output. And so all you got to do is to pull the chat ID over here and drag it over down here as well. And there you have it, very easy, very quick. Okay, you're going to make sure that the credentials is connected to the right Telegram bot so that it will work perfectly as well. Once it's done, we're going to go into the first part, which is the chat model. And so for using open source chat models, we're going to use something called Open Router. And you can see over here, if we click into the plus button, we just have to search for Open Router chat model, and then we can have it over here. Okay, and once you're done with that, you just have to go into openrouter.ai, make sure to add in some credits and get your API keys. And after that, you just have to search the models over here by clicking into models. And then you just have to click into the supported parameters, which is tools, so that you get a list of the specific models that supports the tool function that we need to use for our rec models. You can see over here is a list of amazing models that you can use and the price for each of them, so you can test and try it out and see which works best for you. What I like to use recently is the Qwen model from Alibaba. And so you can search for the Qwen model over here. So I'm going to search Qwen. And you can see these are the different models. And I'm going to use Qwen 2.5 72B instruct. So all you got to do is to copy the model name over here. Copy this. Okay, get your API keys over here in keys. Right, once you have that, we're going to go back to our workflow. And from here, you're going to open this up. You're going to add in your credentials and your API keys over here. Okay, once that is done, you're going to search for the model. So you can actually either search for the model over here. You can just copy the specific model that you've copied from Open Router earlier on. Okay, you can see over here, this is Qwen 2.5 72B instruct. All right, once that is done, you're good to go. I make sure to rename this to Qwen 2.5 instruct, so that's easier for me to actually see which models I'm using. And once that is done, we're going to create the next part, which is our chat memory. You can see over here, if we create a new credential, you can see these are the different information that we need. So we do need the host, the database, the user, as well as the password. That allows us to host the memory of the chat history in our own specific database. And so for today's example, we're going to use Supabase for all of the information that we have, inclusive of our chat histories, as well as the documents that we want our AI agents to gain access to. Okay, so to move on to this step, we're going to go into Supabase. Right, we're just going to create a new account, and you can just use a free account to get started with first. It's more than enough to play around. And then you're just going to create a new project, and I'm just going to call this n8n. Once you're done creating a new project, what you want to do is to go into project settings over here. Once that's done, you're going to click into data API. And over here, you're going to be able to copy the project API keys as well as the service role secret key. But this is what we're going to use for the connection later on. Okay, over here, there's also a URL. You'll have the URL that you can copy over to the n8n workflow as well. And these are the main information that you would need to connect. Is the connect button over here. By clicking into it, you can get access to the information required. So if you actually expand these parameters over here, you do have the host, the port, the database, and the user information. What I'll do is to use the session poller over here into the parameters. This is the host, the port, the database, the username, and the poll mode. Right, all these we have to copy into our credentials over here. So once again, if you create a new credential, the port would be this specific number over here. The database would be Postgres, right? As follows over here. User would be this specific username over here. You want to copy this and paste this over here. And of course, lastly, you want to copy over your password, which will be the secret key from the API document previously. And once you paste all of that in, it should work perfectly. You'll be able to have your credentials from Supabase connected to your n8n platform. We're going to make sure the session ID is defined below. And we're going to connect it to the json.message.text, which is from our Telegram chat. All right, similarly, this will be the same for the Rec AI agent. We also want to define below over here. And we want to find json.message.text, which we could get by dragging over the text bubble over here like this. And then you will have it over here. Perfect. Once this is done, by default, it should create a specific table for us called n8n chat history. And we can set the context window to the number of texts we want the agent to remember before it forgets and restart again. So for this specific example, I put it as 100, but you can keep it as low as 5 or even more, up to you. Once this is done, we're going to go back to our project. And from here, you're just going to open up the table editor. If you actually have the AI agent, you should be seeing something like this created. n8n chat history that is created by the memory over here. You should have all your chat history saved over here in this specific table. And just like that, we have created our own self-hosted database for our Rec AI agent. Alright, once that's done, we want to also make sure to link it to our documents later on, which we'll get into it right away. So the next thing I want to create is to create a tool. So we're going to click into this plus button, and we're going to search for vector store question answer tool, and we're going to click into that. And then we're going to add in the information for this specific use case. And so coming back to the one that we have created, let's take a look. We're going to create a name for the data name, right? So we're going to retrieve the name from this document called user_documents. You can see over here, this is actually the documents that we have created earlier on. So later on, we're going to create this document section and you will understand why. And then we're going to have a description of the data, and we're just going to type in, it contains all the users' documents that you can check for context to answer user questions. You can set a limit to 4. Essentially, this limit is just the maximum number of results to return, so we can just keep it as 4 for now. Once that is done, it's connected to 2 specific nodes. First one is we need to connect it to a vector store. The second is to connect it to a model. Right, the model is the AI model that is going to use to help us gain access and retrieve the documents for us. And so, once again, we're going to set the model to Qwen 2.5 instruct. Similarly, you just have to add in the open router account, and you have to connect it to the Qwen model. And then from here, we're just going to add in the Supabase vector store. So how you're going to do that is to click plus, okay, and you just have to search for the Supabase vector store. So once we're connected to the Supabase vector store, we want to give it an operation mode. And so we want to select it as retrieve documents as vector store for chains or tools. This allows us to retrieve documents from the vector store that we are creating on the Supabase later on. Okay, coming back, we're just going to select the table name, the list, which would be documents. If you don't have these for now, don't worry. We're going to create a next workflow which will allow us to have this specific table name. And of course, do not forget the most important step. You do have to connect the credentials to your Supabase account. You want to make sure to add in a host as well as the secret key that we have gotten from the Supabase API that's shown earlier on. And once this is done, press back and we should be good to go. So you just have to connect it to an embedding node, and you can just use the embedding OpenAI node. Right, click into that and choose the text embedding tree small model. And this should be all you need. And of course, make sure to connect your OpenAI platform credentials into this as well. And to have that, you just have to go into platform.openai and get your API keys from your profile over here and search for API keys and copy that over. Now, coming back to this, your first workflow is almost completed, so we can click save. We're going to go into the next workflow, which is to upload our document into our Supabase database and create our database for our AI agent to use for RAG. All right, let's go into the second workflow now. And so in this second workflow, we're going to start off by creating 2 specific nodes. The first one is the file created node, and the second one is the file updated node for Google Drive. And so to connect to your Google Drive API, make sure to follow the documentation from Google Cloud. You're going to go into API and services, click into enable API and services. Make sure the Google Drive API is approved. So you can search for Google Drive and you can click into Google Drive API. Make sure it's enabled. And then from there, you want to get your keys from your credentials over here. Make sure to create a new credential over here. Create an OAuth client ID and follow the documentation accordingly throughout to get your Google Drive approved. Right, and where can you find the documentation? Simply, you can click into Docs over here. Okay, and then over here, you can just follow the steps accordingly. Perfect. Once you have your Google Drive account connected, These will set intervals where the automation takes in the information from your Google Drive. So for example, we have this specific folder over here. If we set it to a minute every time we update any of this meeting minutes or we upload a new document, every time we have all this new information updated into our database on a minute basis. Of course, you can also change it to every hour, every day. So it's up to you on how you want this specific workflow to be updated. And so we're just going to set this to every minute. And we're going to have a trigger on changes involving a specific folder. And we're going to choose the folder, which is our template notes over here. We're going to watch for file created. And it's so that every time we create a new file, it will update our database accordingly. Same thing here. We can also have one for updated. So we're just going to make sure that this time, the only difference is we're going to watch for file updated. Okay, so the next one we're going to do is to create an edit field note. To do so, we just have to click plus, search for edit fields, click into this, and we'll have this specific note. Over here, we're going to search for manual mapping, and we're going to type in file ID, string, and we're going to type in this specific JSON code. So bracket, money sign, JSON.id. We're going to make sure to convert the file ID into a JSON ID to use for later on. Once this is done, we're going to make sure to delete any old documents that is similar as well. So we're going to create a Supabase node. We're going to search for Supabase, and we're going to find the delete rows node. We're going to open this, and we're going to choose the operation to be delete. Table name or ID will be documents as selected, and the select type would be string. We're going to type in this specific filter. So you can copy this once again from our document. We're going to make sure that we can delete any of the previous information earlier on so that we can have our database constantly updated. After we're done with this, we're going to go into the next Google Drive node, which is download file, and we want to download the information from the Google Drive. So we're going to search for download file, and then we're going to search for the file ID, and we're going to type in this set file ID to .item JSON.fileID. From here, we're going to then have the options. We're going to have the Google file conversion, which is Google Docs, text, Google Drawings, JPEG, Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, and Google Sheets CSV. Right, these are the different options of the different types of files that we can actually use to download as well. And once it's done, click back. And then we're going to extract the document text from the file. So we're going to click into this. We're going to search for the extract document text node. And then we're going to have the operation extract from text file. The input binary field would be data. The destination output field would be data as well. Lastly, the most important node, which is insert into Supabase Vector Store. We're going to open this up. Make sure to connect to your Supabase account. The operation mode would be insert documents, which this allows us to insert documents into the Supabase Vector Store. The table list would be from list, and we're going to search for documents. And then from here, the query name will be to match the documents. And this is to ensure that the documents have to match if we want to update the specific documents accordingly. Similarly, we're going to make sure the embedding is OpenAI. We're going to add one final note to make sure that we get this done. We're going to choose the default data loader. And over here, we're going to load the specific data file ID, set file ID, item, JSON, file ID. And this is so that we can add in the next one, which is the recursive character text splitter. And then we're going to have the chunk size to 1000. So why do we create this specific recursive character text splitter, right? This allows us to break down larger text to smaller manageable pieces so that the important details are not lost during the processing, as our document information can be filled with a lot of data without actually having any important information lost in the process. So once again, I know I've moved through this process actually really fast, so make sure to pause at any point if you need to, and also refer to my blueprint in the resources below to actually help you understand better on each of the specific steps. And once this is done, we can click save, and this allows us to create the database on Supabase. Now, let's test out the workflow, all right? And we're just going to use a new dummy data to be uploaded to our Word document. And so I've asked ChatGPT to create a dummy data for me. I'm going to copy this specific data, which is on February 12th. Perfect. Copy this over, copy, and then I'm going to go into templates. I'm going to click new Google Docs. I'm going to paste this in. I'm going to type this as meeting minutes 12 Feb 2025. Now, once it's done, if you look into our database documents right now, we do not have that specific meeting minutes. If you haven't created your database yet, you will not see anything over here. But once this is done, we're going to go into our workflow, click test workflow once again. You can see it's moved through the file created node, and then it's created this specific new document into our Supabase, right? If you come back to Supabase, refresh this, you can see a new document is actually added over here. So the project meeting notes over here is added. So that's actually pretty cool. And now we have our database created and automatically updated every time we add in a new document into our specific folder. And before we finalize this and actually test out our rec agent again, all you gotta do is to give your rec agent a specific prompt over here. Right, this system message prompt is to let the agent know what it is actually tasked to do. And so over here you can see I've actually created a specific agent prompt, and it's actually created with my agent prompt crafter over here that I've created on ChatGPT. So you can also gain access to that in my resources below. So coming back to AI agent, just to share with you how I write this prompt, I've actually given it a agent overview to tell it, such as to retrieve relevant information from the stored documents based on the user queries using the retrieve document tool, where I give it some context on what it's supposed to do, analyzing the user query and match it against the stored document database, such as user query processing, right, document retrieval, and response generation. Following that, I also given it some instructions, right, such as input analysis, accepting the user input as a query, and then retrieve the information from the stored documents, and then format the output, and also some error handling as well. And lastly, I've also created some standard operating procedure to make sure that the AI agent knows what to do when it's dealing with information it doesn't know, such as handling errors by requesting clarifications or notifying the user if no match is found. And lastly, also add in the today's date and time so that the agent can actually reference that. Alright, and once that is done, after adding the prompt and clicking save, you actually have both workflows completed, and here you have it, your very own AI rec agent. This is actually a base that allows you to use your AI agents to do more impressive things, such as accessing bigger databases as well. So just to see if our update actually works perfectly, let's ask it, when is the latest meeting held? Let's test the workflow, and let's see what happens. And perfect, now that it's updated, the latest meeting was held on February 12th instead of 11. So you can actually see the information is actually updated, and the AI agent actually get access to the latest and most real-time information from our database. Alright, there you have it, your very own rec AI agent and your very own database created with Supabase itself. And this is actually just a start and a foundation of how powerful AI agents can be. From here, you can actually use this specific workflow to create AI agents that access even bigger databases for your own specific use cases. So do give it a try and let me know what you think. If you like videos like this and want to learn more about AI agents, do give it a like and subscribe, as I'll be sharing more AI agent tutorials over here. Till then, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.